Hello everybody out there in internet land, this is Chris from HHN with another exciting episode of Topher's Vlog. So for today's video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue on the path that we started earlier, where I said, earlier in the year, one of the earlier Topher's Vlogs, where I talked about how, this year's going to be a bunch of, we're going to talk about the speculation, we're going to talk about, we're going to reminisce and talk about the old school, talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly and everything in between. And one of the first videos that I did this year was my least favorite houses for the event since I've been going. I've been going since the year 2000. I've been going every year since the year 2000. Last year I did a video where I explained why after my visit to the event in 2000, I vowed never to return. You can go and watch that video, but I've been coming back ever since. So for today's video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about my favorite year, or in this case, my favorite years for Halloween Horror Nights, for the years that I've been going. Now, I cannot pinpoint one specific year since I've been going that I really enjoy over the others. I think every year has its own merits. I think every year has its own faults. I think there's a lot of in between, a lot of things to really like, a lot of things to really hate. But for me specifically, there are 2 years that I love for 2 specific reasons. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with probably the one that's going to get the most controversy. And that is the year 2005, Halloween Horror Nights 15, the Tales of Terror year. Obviously the last year that was over at Islands of Adventure. It is the year that involved the Terror Queen, which may or may not be playing a very vital role this year. One of the reasons why I put this on my best of years list is not necessarily because of the houses. I know this year has a lot of hate because of the houses. You have, Cold Blind Terrors in there. You have, Where Evil Hides is in there. There's not, the School, not necessarily the strongest year for houses. But what I love about this year is that this was really the first time that since I've been going, or had been going, that I saw the potential in what the powers that be could do behind the scenes in terms of an immersive storytelling event. I know there's a lot of people out there who consider 2008 to be the benchmark year for the whole art and design, deep dives into storylines and stuff like that. I agree and I disagree. I think that there's a lot of really cool things in 2008, and I like 2008, don't get me wrong. I'm saying that in terms of the immersive storytelling that the team was able to do was much more on display in 2005 than in 2008. 2008, I think the average person, if you were just going to the event, outside of Bloody Mary herself, you would have no idea really, unless you did the deep dive, what all the interconnective tissue was in that event. For all, the layman might have known, is, oh, Bloody Mary. But why that stuff was connected, the reasons why, like, the houses were interconnected with that story, I don't think the average person would have really known unless you did the deep dive into the backstories. 2005, everything was front and center. The world of Terra Cruentus came to life at Islands of Adventure. The moment you got that map said it was a map of Terra Cruentus. You had different lands on that map. Islands had completely been transformed into that world. And the storyline about what was going on, I think, was much more easily accessible to the layman, than 2008. And I love what they did in 2005. I think that all that stuff, is really was really quite unique. I don't think we really haven't seen that since, and they hadn't done anything like that before. And they were sort of capitalizing on the whole fantasy sort of element type thing that was popular at the time. And for every Cold Blind Terror, for every Where Evil Hides, 2005 gave us the Body Collectors as the first year for that, who were integral to the Terror Queen's plot, which sort of never or hasn't come back since. The Body Collectors have indeed showed up since then, but really that whole connective tissue it's sort of kind of been lost. I don't think a lot of the laymen, the average guest who comes, the muggles, as it were, the normies, who comes to the event and sees the Body Collectors, I don't think they realize that the Body Collectors were were integral to the plot of the Terror Queen. I don't think they fully understand it. They just see the body collectors, and they know that they've been around before, and they sort of look like the gentleman from Buffy. But besides that, I don't think they really know what their purpose was and why they were created in the first place. And I think that's why 2005 for me, still to this day, in terms of what the team is able to do with their immersive storytelling, I think is unparalleled. Everything in that year tied into the overall theme and the overall story. Of course, it's got controversy because of the whole, the icon situation where the Terror Queen was kind of pushed aside because, marketing couldn't kind of figure out how to basically sell her to the public, and they created the storyteller. But I think the storyteller works just as well. I mean, it's literally a story that she's telling. You're immersed in that world, and I think that works quite well. And who knows? Maybe we will see her. Maybe we'll see both this year. I don't know. And that's, of course, I don't want to get into this, but that's, of course, if the event still goes on, but we're going to move on from that. But yeah, so 2005 is one of the 2 years that I love personally. I constantly reminisce about that. I have video of 2005. The problem is that my video it came from a Sony Hi8 Handycam, and the video is not the greatest. Maybe one day I will try to put that video up on the internet. If I can clean it up a little bit, then I'll get it out there. But I love 2005. I think 2005, houses aside, I think 2005 because when you look at, I know everyone hates on Cold Blind Terror and Where Evil Hides, and even The School. I think the worst one is probably Cold Blind Terror, but Where Evil Hides is just a generic, it's kind of forgettable as a house. I don't think it's really all that horrible. But it is what it is. And The School is kind of forgettable. I think that's the main problem, is that the houses that were kind of on the bottom rung, you just kind of forget about. Whereas the other houses like Body Collectors, Demon Cantina, and Terror Mines, which I love Terror Mines. I know people kind of poo-poo Terror Mines, but I love Terror Mines. I have a lot of great memories from that house, from Terror Mines. I love Terror Mines. And I love the use of the space, love the use of the Poseidon's Fury building. I thought that was integrated very well in 2005. I love the immersive storytelling of 2005, and it sits up there, amongst the best for me. The other year that I want to talk about is probably not as controversial, because I think a lot of people sort of kind of agree on this. 2011, Halloween Horror Nights 21. Now, I know people hate Lady Luck. I know she gets a lot of hate. It is what it is. I don't think she's as bad as people make her out to be. I think that there was a lot of things that they skimped on that year with her. Same thing, I feel the same way about Chance. I think they skimped on Chance a lot too. Same thing here with Lady Luck. I think there was just a lot they could have done that they sort of brushed aside and pushed over. But to this day, even post 2000 Halloween Horror Nights 29, I still believe that Halloween Horror Nights 21, Halloween Horror Nights 2011, is the best collection of houses that we've ever had at the event. I think there is not a bad house in the bunch of those houses. When you throw out names, Nightingales, Winter's Night, Saw's Steam Into the Machine, The Madness of Poe, The Forsaken, The In-Between, even The Thing, based on the remake or whatever. Like, all those houses, I think are still, they have not been topped in terms of the whole collection of houses. Everything from that year just stands out so much, and I just don't think that they've really been topped since. I think you can make an argument that The Thing is probably the weakest house that year, or was the weakest house that year. But even that, that house specifically, while it might have been not the best house, I think was still done really well. So, there's still a lot to like about that house. And, there's another one in there somewhere, Blood and Guts, H&R Blood and Guts. So, there, again, you throw out, any number one of those houses, and you're like, oh, that's from 2011, Halloween Horror Nights 21? Yes. The scare zones that year and some of the experimentation that they kind of did, Night Maze and Acid Assault, of course, and the Canyon of Dark Souls, which is the only scare zone that we've had over there at the World Expo. Canyon of Dark Souls was kind of an interesting thing because the concept of that scare zone was very interesting, and it was just not executed at all. It was not executed well at all. But I think with the scare zones that year, well, the one thing that I like to sort of talk about is how experimental those scare zones were. 7 being, of course, that they changed throughout the night as the event goes on. Acid Assault was the first time that we saw the 3D mapping projection in the New York area there on the buildings. Night Maze, of course, that we're not going to talk about that, but Night Maze also was kind of an experiment with the whole shifting scare zone thing. So I mean, there was a lot of experimenting going on with the scare zones. People hate Lady Luck. I get it. I don't think she was as bad, like I said before, as some people make her out to be. I think there were mistakes made with the character, but she was fine. She served her purpose. She was the face of the event. It is what it is. I would love to see a return to Lady Luck one day, but that year is not about Lady Luck. That year is not about the scare zones. That year is about the houses. I cannot stress enough how much I love the houses this year and how much I believe that still, to this day, it is the best collection of houses that we've ever had. I think as the house count gets, more and more, of course, I believe there were 6 or 7 houses that year. Now, of course, we have 10. It gets harder and harder to sort of maintain that quality over the course of 10 houses. You're going to have stinkers. You're going to have houses that don't exactly live up to the expectation. It's just the nature of the game. It's the law of averages. That's just how it works. But I think last year, 2019, Halloween Horror Nights 29, I think that was the closest we've come so far to sort of matching the overall quality from Halloween Horror Nights 21 in terms of the houses being, the best collection that we've ever had. But I think there were some houses that were more on the cusp of being just downright bad, or you can categorize them as that way, at least for me. But I think last year was the closest that we've come so far. But 21, I still think, is still hands down the best collection of houses that we've ever had. And there are other years in there. Like I said, I love 2008. I like last year. I like 2018 as well. 2007 I think is a great year. But in terms of the ones that I always think about, the ones that I always go back to, the ones that I always talk about, 2005 and 2011, Halloween Horror Nights 15 and Halloween Horror Nights 21, I think are my 2 favorites. There's so much memorable shit that has come out of those 2 years that I think some people sort of overlook a lot. Like I said, I love the storytelling. I love the world that they built in 2005, and I love the houses that were presented in 2011. Just those are my 2 favorite years. And like I said, I wanted to go back and reminisce a little bit. Maybe one day, like I said, the video, because I do have video of 2005, but it's just the quality is just really bad. The quality doesn't live up to something that I'd be comfortable sharing because the quality is so bad. It took me even last year when I did the video about going in 2000. That's shot with the same camera, but I was able to find certain points of that video that were not as bad as other points and use those points. 2005 is a little bit worse, so we'll see. Maybe, like I said, one day maybe I'll go and try to clean it up as best I can and put it up on the internet. But anyway, guys, that is it for me this week. I think I just wanted to do the whole reminiscing thing because it is the 30th anniversary of the event. And I am still working on, we did the bottom, my least favorite houses. That was earlier in the year, talking about my favorite years today. I am working on updating my top 10 list for houses. The last time I did that was back in 2015. I did my top 25 for the 25th anniversary. I will not be doing 30. I'm just going to update my top 10 list, but that's been taking me quite some time because like the worst list or my least favorite list, it took me a while because I had to sort of remember, you know, after a while things start to meld together. It's like, was this house, was in this house, was that house? The best of list is a little bit easier in that category, but the problem is trying to, you know, maybe, especially when you're updating the list, is, you know, taking stuff off and putting stuff on. What comes off, what goes back on. So that's been, you know, it's like trying to choose between your babies and stuff, and you know, it is what it is. But anyway, guys, so that is it for me. I've talked a little bit way too long this time. But yeah, so 2005, 2011, those are my two favorite years for Halloween Horror Nights. There are other years, of course, but those are the two that stick out and have always stuck out in my mind, at least since I've been going. So yeah, so that's it. But anyway, guys, I will talk to you guys next week. Continue to stay safe. Don't be a dick to people, of course. And that's it. So I'll talk to you guys later.